Alright guys, so we got some new parts for the Sequoia in. We got a 2-inch lift, we got some OEM ball joints, upper ball joints. We're gonna reinstall them. I'm just sick of the tubular control arms. They're freaking junk. They squeak. They're loose. It feels like I am probably gonna die every time I drive it. The chance of me dying is greatly improved. So before that happens, we need to actually use the Sequoia to use the car hauler, so we're going to put the old control arms back on. Now, here's what we have. We have the stock control arms. We have, like I said, two brand new, genuine, well, supposed to be. Let me verify that. Yeah, the actual Ison brand, genuine BMW control, or ball joints. And hopefully those will make it a lot more safe. We just got a KSP performance leveling kit. This is only a 2-inch, and the ones I have on it right now is a 3-inch. So in theory, I think I sucked down a bug. In theory, this should keep this from hitting the coil spring. In theory. Now, we have the 33-inch tires on it. They rub now when you turn the wheel. Will an inch difference make that much of a difference? I don't know. We might have to get different tires. Oh, it'll run and drive, just I don't know how much the rub's going to be. So, I'll put a link in the description in the Amazon store for the 2-inch. I think I already have 3-inch in there. I'll put a link for these. I'm going to give you fair warning, they weren't cheap. Or $45 a piece. So these and this all together is like 130 bucks. I think this is like $34 for this kit. So we're going to leave our differential drop in it. We'll leave all that the same. Hopefully this might save my CV axles from wearing out so fast. So what we're going to do, Friday night, it's dark outside. We got the E60 BMW sitting outside the door. For tonight, I'm just going to... I'm pretty much going to have to pull a Sequoia in here if we could do any damn thing. So, I guess let's go ahead and get that done. Move some cars around. Pull it in here. I think we're going to have to move some stuff around. It's so freaking big. Okay, so we got the tubular control arms pulled off. Put my gloves back on. Everything's pretty greasy. So there's a few problems with this setup. Well, my phone keeps ringing. Second is, you see the grade 8 bolt, how the threads were chattering up that bolt already? I mean, I give that a few months or maybe a year and that's going to twist, that's going to bust in half, and then you're dead. The next thing is, the through bolt, it has these style bushings in it, and while that's a good idea, if you tighten the through bolt, there's no flex in here. Like the factory bushing can actually flex, right? And those don't seem to be ripped or nothing. They seem to be in good shape even after 399,000 miles. Next thing is, that's like a tight fit, right? Or a pretty modestly tight fit. This, that's not a tight fit. And you can't tighten the bolt. So you have a whole bunch of play in here. So when you hit a bump, everything varies. And Protein, I hope you're watching this, because these don't work. Now if you gave me a different 3-bolt, maybe it would work, but then I don't think it would pass through the strut tower. The next thing is, when I was taking apart, I noticed that this was getting play in it already. I mean, I could wiggle that. You hear it, right? Probably not. And there was play on the bottom, so this was already getting chattered up. I mean, there's like slop in there, right? So that doesn't work. The uniball doesn't work. I mean, maybe, no, it doesn't work. But any stretch of the imagination whatsoever, that don't work. If you're driving it only off-road, maybe. But the question is, where is the screeching coming from? It had to be from these bushings in here. It just screeched like hell. You know, it could have been from the through bolt. even though the through bolt was tight. I don't remember what we set this at anymore, 120 or 100, I think it was 100. It would just screech like hell when you hit bumps. So that's where we're at with it. We're gonna go ahead and right now put these arms back on. Let me flip you guys up here. And this is where we're at under here. So all we're gonna do is just get our press, our big C-clamp press, pop that out. We're gonna go and put the new ball joint in. It shouldn't really be that difficult at all. What we do have to do is pull the strut off and then go ahead and remove this 3-inch spacer on top, put the 2-inch on it. Another thing I don't like about this either, this ball joint piece that presses in is only held in by a big washer, and that washer could bend. So if that starts working loose, it's going to bend that washer up. I don't think it'll come out, but it's really going to jack your alignment up. There's a lot of flaws to this system. A lot of people buy these, a total chaos, uses the same kind of stuff. And I just don't, I don't know. What they need to do is put a high flex ball joint, which I make those now instead of that stupid ass thing. And they need to put these exact bushings in those arms. If you did that, then you'd be good. I think you'd be really good to go. So whoever made these, maybe they had good intent, and ProTune proclaimed that they never had anybody had these problems with this. Well, my experience with these are whoever has a problem probably isn't around to tell about it, if you know what I mean. So let's go ahead and reinstall this. Let's get that spacer on and get that thing on the road. I notice these spacers don't come with studs in them anymore. They only come with bolts. I don't like that too much, but what are you going to do about it? Okay, so here's where we're at. All we done was take the bolt out of the top ball joint. We took the top control arm off. Now, if you're just wanting to do spacers, you don't have to take the whole control arm off. Just take the ball joint nut off, separate the ball joint. We have the CV axle still in here, but it's kind of stretched, if you can see that up there or not. But to make sure when we tilt this back up to put the upper ball joint back in, that goes back in all the way. And you might have to turn it a little bit and squish it in, and then it should go in. If not, you won't be able to line a ball joint up. So anyway, here we go. We have our 3-inch spacer and our 2-inch spacer. Now, it doesn't actually measure that, but that's what the lift it gives it, right? So it's actually skinnier. This is like a 2-inch. This is like a 1-inch, a little over 1. You can see the difference there. And the old style has studs in there, and the new style has bolts. So all this does is sit on top of here, just like that. And now this old spacer, this is for Tacoma, and the center hole is a little bit on the small side, so you got to tap it down on there. But the new one, it goes in there no problem at all. So they gave us new nuts and washers to put on here, and then I guess we'll just kind of hold it up there and start a bolt or two so it'll dangle. And then on the bottom where the bolt goes through, make sure you have that lined up with your slot there when you put it in, and you might have to stick a screwdriver in that hole and turn the whole thing to line it up correctly. Overall, it's not that bad. And this will, the Sequoia here, we're not running a front sway bar, it's unhooked sitting there. We might put that back on now we got less lift on it. It won't make it near as tight, I don't know. It rides so nice and smooth without it though, I hate to even touch it. So anyhow, yeah, we're gonna do that. We're gonna press this guy out. I guess we'll stick this back in there, put the nuts and everything on that, finalize that. We'll pop this out, we'll press the new ball joint in, put it back up, and that should be it. Kind of stretching our ABS cable a little bit there. And overall not bad. If you have, you know, you have a shop with an air conditioner, blow right on you when you're working, it's not too bad. If you're outside and it's 100, it's probably pretty tough. So yeah, I don't know. Let's see. I'm kind of curious to see how this is going to work out. Now, one other thing. I did buy the stainless steel brake line kit. I noticed the brakes, you have to push on them pretty hard. It's like one may not be functioning correctly. That's going to be another day, though. We're up against the time schedule to get this thing back out of the shop. So we'll go ahead and get the press kit out, put this in, press that out. We'll be right back. All right, so here we are. We got the upper control arm installed It's a little tough to get the bolt in. We just have it snugged up, so we can still easily move it. And, you know, Toyota says to torque this like 170 foot-pounds. I've never done one that tight. Usually I just tighten it 40 or 50. I mean, we could try it, but I feel like it's still going to seize those bushings. But, I don't know. But there's a lot more. It's like way tighter where the bolt goes through, right? So we put the strut back in. It was real easy. I'm not a big fan of the bolts instead of the studs, but with a 2-inch lift, it's a lot easier to get back in there, right? With 3-inch lift, it's a real struggle to push the lower control arm down far enough to get the bolt in. And with this, it was real easy, no problem at all. So I guess we're just gonna go ahead and torque down these top bolts. Those are 10.9 grade. To look up and see what the torque. Should have a paper somewhere here with it. But it's not going to be a lot because it's 32 aluminum. So we'll tighten those up. We're just going to get a press kit. We're going to press this out next, I guess. And other than that, I mean, it's really super simple. Now remember, if you guys want to put a 2 or 3 inch, a 2 inch you probably don't have to put the differential drop and all that stuff in. A 3 inch you have to. And I'm going to tell you right now, a 3 inch, using a 3-inch spacer, you're going to have some kind of other control arm or something. Because you're going to run into the problem with that bashing that spring. So I don't know. Some trucks are okay with it, some trucks are not. This one was not. Okay, so we just pressed it out. We used our C-clamp kit. I'll put a link for that. I think it's already in the description. I'll put a link right at the top of the description. That is worth its weight in gold. You can press pretty much anything out with that. They're not much off Amazon. They're I'm gonna say 40 bucks, $38. And for Toyotas, that pretty much has everything you need, give or take. But it pushed that thing right out, no problem at all. And you can see it's not, this isn't actually stainless, it's like a nickel plated metal. You can see how thin that is right there in that valley. And I mean, there's just not much there. And everywhere it's pressed in, it scraped off the nickel plating. And it's like copper color, right, when they plated it. So we're going to go and put in these OEM joints. Trying to get out of the bag. Here's the OEM joints. These are actual Toyota ones. So we're going to basically push that up from the bottom, like so. That pushes up there with the press. And once you push it in, it has this retaining clip that goes in there and locks it, so it can't go anywhere. That's a lot safer. The quality of the steel on these factory joints is a lot stronger, like tremendously stronger. And we've always run the Chinese style ball joints in this. It would eat them up after a year or two, and it start getting loose, hard to drive, and all that nonsense. And some of them would fail immediately. But I'll go ahead and put links to the ball joints, the press, and the spacers in the description. If you guys are adding lift or taking lift out of your first gen Tundra or Sequoia or Tacoma or 4Runner, all the stuff that uses this style system, this is all the same joints for that and all the same spacers. So, you know, definitely coming pretty handy. All right, we're gonna go and press this in with the big press. We'll set up the little cones on it, and we'll go ahead and squidge it in here, and we'll show you before we press it in what chain of events have to take place for this to happen. Alright, so here's how we're set up, and you don't have a lot of room in here. If you don't have the CV axle in, or you loosen a nut, you could actually flip this out to where it's outside the fender. That's alright though. We get a 7/8 of an inch on this, and we can turn that in, no problem at all. So we have the flat part of the C-clamp right on the bottom of the joint. We have a tall cup that has a bottom in it on top. Then we have the C-clamp is pushed right inside the top of that cup. And basically we're just gonna turn this. We're gonna spray some penetrating oil on the threads. We should have done that last time. That'll make it easier to turn. We're gonna turn this, we'll kind of hold this in place, and that's going to close the gap right there, and it'll pull it right in. Okay, so we just pressed it in. Just took a straight screwdriver and worked that ring in. And always make sure that, you gotta make sure the ball joint's pressed all the way in, otherwise that ring won't seat. Make sure it's seated all the way around. Take a screwdriver or something, tap it in, and make sure it can't go any further. This one's seated very nicely all the way around. So we're gonna do this point, we're installed. They give you some extra grease. It has some grease in it. We'll go ahead and squidge this in there, and then we'll go ahead and put gonna put the boot on it like so, and then they give you like a little wire band, and that's gonna go down along the bottom. So, and how these work, you can just kind of pry it apart. It's like spring steel, right? You stretch it out, put it over there, and it'll lock on the bottom of it, and that's it. But it has like a lip it slips over. And to be honest with you, this is probably the best setup. Aftermarket stuff tries to do this stuff, but it never is quite as good. And really, I mean, a factory set of these will last on a Tundra 200,000 miles. So even though they're $45 a piece, I mean, it's kind of worth it, isn't it? So I think what we're gonna do, we're not gonna take it to get it aligned, because technically it's gonna be the same alignment we had minus an inch of lift. So we'll probably go ahead and eventually do the inner and outer tie rods with OEM or Moog or something, and then take it in and get it aligned. And at that point in time, we may not have those freaking tires anymore, but we'll see. Okay, well, let's stop reading directions and make sure on the tie. So they want you to twist it like this, and then come in here and take your dikes or cutters, and you're gonna go ahead and cut off a piece of sending out like that. It doesn't say to do this. Maybe we'll come in here and just kind of bend that over just a little bit, like so. But down maybe to get it off the boot, like that. Looks like that might, I don't know if you can even see that. That might work out. Now, one thing I did notice, it had two different kinds of grease. It has another package of grease that's blue, but the instructions said nothing. Said nothing about it. They said put the clear grease in, so we put the clear grease in. Then they give you, of course, they give you a castle nut and a cotter pin, a really short cotter pin actually. So we'll go ahead and tighten that down, and the bolt has, or the stud has a hole in, actually two holes in it. We'll go ahead and put the castle nut on, put the cotter pin in, flare the cotter pin ends out, and it should be it. Okay, so we reinstalled everything. We just ran it down with a little impact. You can't really use a ratchet or anything on this. It just doesn't work. It spins the ball. So we just ran it down with that. We know that's, I don't remember. It was about 50-ish foot-pounds, something like that, actual foot-pounds. We just hogged it down there with that, put the cotter pin in, and flared it out, and we're ready. But you can see it full lift up on the jack stands. We're bashing big time into the spring, if you can even see that or not. It's like the lip of the spindle is actually in the spring. So, I don't know, we'll just see. And I left this like this, it's missing the bracket. I was hoping the brake lines I had would have the stainless steel going from all the way up here all the way down, but it doesn't. So we're going to figure out something with that too, but not today. That'll be some other day. So we'll put our guard back up. We'll go ahead and we'll probably put it back in the ground. I'll reach in here with the ratchet and tighten those through bolts up and do all that. All right, so we got her done. I have to be honest, right now it sits the same or higher in front than it does with the tubular arms on it. The air rides are all the way up and back, and we have, let me get the tape measure here. I kind of bounced on it a little bit. I don't know if it's totally settled or not. So on the front we have about 8 inches. I think the air ride has 50 pounds in it. Probably let a little bit of that out. In the back we have 7.5 inches. It'll settle a little bit, but I would say we're pretty close. So hopefully we're not bashing. No, we're 1.5 inches away from the spindle. So the 2-inch might be the way to go. I'm gonna go drive it. I don't think it's gonna rub anymore. It looks like it's gonna rub less, to be honest with you. It just goes to show you I cannot find one possible reason Not even the slightest reason to run those tubular control arms. So my advice, if you're gonna lift one of these, go with a 2-inch. If you're gonna go any further, buy the whole subframe piece, the whole big kit, which is like $1,500 for one of these. That'll get you up to 6, maybe a little more if you stack some stuff, maybe 9 if you really stack stuff. That's gonna be it. I mean, that's all for the OEM upper ball joint and 2-inch lift kit video. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a good day.